Well, this is an exciting month at CLF as we have two very, I'll say exciting again, exciting things that have one that has happened and one that's about to happen. And we've taken the theme for this month around those two things. So the first exciting thing that has already happened is that last week we rolled out the new name and expansive vision for our educational center here. We're very much an educational church, and that is we are now called the Creative Living University. I know, that's very exciting, and we're looking forward to moving forward with that new name and that new energy and the new consciousness that brings. And yesterday in our work day here, at least one sign got put up that says Creative Living University on campus. And I just have to tell you, first service, there was not one person who knew where it was. So I'm wondering, and this doesn't count if you were here yesterday, because you know, if you were here yesterday, no, there's no chocolate. It's just my unending adoration and love. Anybody notice the new sign this morning? Where did you see it? It's on the wall, on the education building. Give this very alert woman, Beverly, a hand. Thank you for that. So more signage will be coming up, but that's the first Creative Living University sign. So that's the first exciting thing that is informing the theme for this month. The second one is that I have to swallow, I'm awful clipped, in 5 days, 21 hours, 50 minutes and 30 seconds, approximately, international best-selling author Gregg Braden will be here for an all-day workshop. A manifestation of a vision I've had for 15 years to bring him here, and it happens next week. So, what do those two things have to do with what we're doing in here every Sunday? Well, here is how we're blending this together. The first thing is our theme for this month is, let us help you do life. And that just happens to be the tagline of Creative Living University. Let us help you do life. So this month, we are looking at life issues, challenges, opportunities, dreams, fears, all of that, this thing that life can do. We're looking at how we can do that in a more connected, spiritual, conscious way. So that's how our Creative Living University fits in, because that's the theme, tagline for that. Let us help you do life. And we're going to do it by applying our gorgeous Science of Mind teachings as they are brought out through Ernest Holmes, our founder, and through Gregg Braden in his book, Secrets of the Lost Mode of Prayer. Now, I just have to tell you that this book we found out after I made the decision to use this book for this month, it's out of print. There you go. Well, so it is undergoing reprinting right now. We talked to Hay House, which is the publisher, this week, and they're out of it right now, but it's being republished in a softback cover. Do we have any left in the bookstore? Do we know? We have one left in the bookstore. Okay, we had a few more. We got a couple of them. We got our hands on a few. So we have one book left in the bookstore. If you want it, race to the bookstore to get it. Right. But remember that on Amazon.com, should you have an electronic reading device, a Kindle or something like that, you can absolutely order it and get it that way. So if you're electronically inclined, you can get the book that way. And it will be out. We're just not exactly sure when it will be reprinted. But nonetheless, this book is going to serve as a support for our work this month together as we do life in an expansive way. So today's title is, Let's Pray About That. Let's pray about that. So the question might be, what is that? Well, that is anything you want it to be. Whatever might be going on in your life that you think could use some prayer, we will, in fact, pray about it in a really beautiful, powerful way. So since our theme is prayer today, I thought I would set the stage with a little story. Dave already knows to be prepared with the bada-ding, bada-doong that this story, I think, needs. So it was in a small town in Texas, a very conservative, religiously conservative town in Texas. This bar owner came in and decided that he wanted to build a tavern. And so he got all the permits that he needed, and he started building a tavern. Well, when the church The local church heard about this. They were just up in arms. They did not want a bar coming into their little community. And so they did everything they knew to do to get rid of this bar that was being built. They circulate petitions for the construction to stop. They held candle prayer vigils, and every single Sunday in the service, they prayed for this just to go away. Well, the construction continued, and the bar is being built, and the bar is being built, and the bar is being built, and they're about a week out from being finished. And lo and behold, this huge Texas storm rolls through with thunder and lightning like crazy. And don't you know, lightning struck that building and burned it to the ground. Well, the people from the church were feeling kind of smug about that. And they were just kind of walking around with a little smug smile on their face until that smile got wiped out when they got slapped with a lawsuit from the owner of the bar claiming that they were responsible for the burning down, either directly or indirectly, for the burning down of his almost built bar. Well, the church hired a lawyer, of course, and they filed a response, and in their response, they vehemently denied any responsibility whatsoever for the burning of the bar. So now this progresses, and it gets in front of a judge for a hearing, and the judge is looking at the paperwork, and he says to the people that are sitting there, he says, I really don't know how I am going to decide on this case, because it appears from the paperwork that we have a bar owner who absolutely believes in the power of prayer and an entire church congregation that does not. Well, I want you to know that's really a great joke, isn't it? That's a good one. That's one of my better ones, I think, actually. Yeah, because I've told some real stinkers, but that one's a good one. I want you to know that this is a church community that fully and completely believes in the power of prayer. Ernest Holmes, our founder, actually says, no class of people on earth believes more in prayer than we do. Our whole theory is based not only in the belief in spirit, but in the availability of it and its immediate response. We even go so far as to say in everyday language, pray right, and God cannot help responding. Now, I love that statement, and yet there's a big question in my mind hanging out there. A huge question. What does it mean to pray right? What in the world does Ernest Holmes mean by praying right? Well, that gets us to the first of the 5 secrets of the lost mode of prayer according to Gregg Braden. And I want to read from a passage from the book. And I thought about just paraphrasing it and telling it to you. But this man has a way of writing that is just totally and thoroughly engaging. And so I want you to hear his words. So bear with me as we do a little story time. Are you up for a little story time? Yes. All right, so here we go. This gets to the right way to pray. I was reeling from what I just heard. The cold from the stone floor beneath my knees had found its way through the dampness of the 2 layers of clothing that I'd worn that morning. Each day on the Tibetan plateau is both summer and winter. Summer in the direct high-altitude sun, and winter as the sun disappears behind the jagged peaks of the Himalayas or behind the high temple walls like those that surround me right now. It is felt as if there was nothing between my skin and the ancient stones on the floor beneath me, yet I couldn't leave. This was the reason I'd invited 20 others to join me in a journey that led us halfway around the world. On this day, we found ourselves in some of the most remote, isolated, magnificent, and sacred places of knowledge remaining on earth today, the monasteries of the Tibetan plateau. For 14 days, we'd acclimated our bodies to altitudes of more than 16,000 feet above sea level. We'd crossed an icy river in hand-hewn wooden barges and driven for hours peering at one another over our surgical masks, which acted as filters for the dust that floated through the floorboards of our vintage Chinese bus. Although the bus seemed as old as the temples themselves, our translator assured us that it wasn't. Holding on to the seats around us and even onto one another now and again, we braced ourselves over washed-out bridges and roadless desert as we were jarred from the inside out, just to be in this very place, in this precise moment. I thought, today is not about being warm. Today is a day of answers. I focused my attention directly into the eyes of the beautiful and timeless-looking man seated lotus-style in front of me, the abbot of the monastery. Through our translator, I'd just asked him the same question that I'd asked each monk and nun that we'd met throughout our pilgrimage. When we see your prayers, I began, what are you doing? When we see you tone and chant for 14 and 16 hours a day, when we see the bells, the bowls, the gongs, the chimes, the mudras, and the mantras on the outside, what is happening to you on the inside? As the translator shared the abbot's reply, a powerful sensation rippled through my body, and I knew that this was the reason we'd come to this place. You have never seen our prayers, the abbot answered, because a prayer cannot be seen. Adjusting the heavy wool robes beneath his feet, he continued, what you have seen is what we do to create the feeling in our bodies. Feeling is the prayer. The clarity of the abbot's answer sent me reeling. His words echoed the ideas that had been recorded in ancient Gnostic and Christian traditions more than 2,000 years ago. In early translations of the biblical book of John, we're invited to empower our prayers by being surrounded by, or feeling, our desires fulfilled, just as the abbot suggested. And quoting from John chapter 6, verse 24, he says, ask without hidden motive and be surrounded by your prayer, be surrounded by your answer. For our prayers to be answered, we must transcend the doubt that often accompanies the positive nature of our desire. If the wisdom was that consistent over such vast periods of time, then it must be useful for us even today. Using nearly identical language, both the abbot and the sacred scrolls were describing a form of prayer that has been largely forgotten in the West. Well, perhaps it has been largely forgotten in the West, but it is not forgotten in science of mind, because we absolutely believe in the power of feeling in our prayers. In fact, it isn't the words. It's the feeling that the words take us to. Now, excuse me, any of you students out there who have your prayers reviewed by teachers such as myself, and we pick on your words, and we make sure you have precise words, right? Do not throw this back in my face when I said the words don't matter. But what we're wanting is our words to take us to feeling. And so whenever we make loving corrections on your papers, it's to help you go to a more powerful feeling. But the truth is, what matters is the feeling. And Ernest Holmes says this in our textbook. He says, feeling is at the center of the universe, and when reflected through our consciousness, sheds its glow wherever the thought travels. Law governs its action, and God himself fulfills its promise. So that, according to Gregg Braden, is the first secret of 5, but the first secret of the lost mode of prayer. Prayer is feeling. Feeling is prayer. So I want to give you a concrete example of this, and it comes out of the secrets of the lost mode of prayer. And it's a true story. Gregg Braden always speaks of his own experiences and his true experiences. So this one, well, he lives in New Mexico, and there had been a drought for many years in New Mexico. And a native friend of Gregg's said one day, his name was David, said to Gregg one day, "Come with me, and I'm going to go pray rain." And so they met at the designated place. They took a hike for several miles into a very remote place in the high desert. and came upon this circle made of stone that had some intricate designs made of stone inside. And Gregg says to David, what is this? He said, this is a medicine wheel. And this has been here as long as I remember. It was made by my ancient ancestors. And he said, there's nothing particularly magical or special about this other than it is a place to focus your power. So I come here to pray. With that, he started taking off his shoes, and he then stepped into the circle. He honored the 4 directions. He put his hands in a prayerful position. He closed his eyes. His breathing seemed to become almost imperceptible. And in about a minute, he said, okay, I'm done, we can go. And he stepped out of the circle and sat down to put his shoes back on. And Gregg said to him, what do you mean we're done? We walked all this way. You didn't do anything. You just stood there for a minute. He said, I thought there'd be some chanting or some dancing or something, or at least a prayer out loud. Nothing? I thought we were here to pray for rain, Gregg says. I thought we were here to pray for rain. And David says, no, 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 no. I was not here to pray for rain. If I had come here to pray for rain, the only thing I would have done is empowered the drought. Oh, think about that for a moment. If I were to pray for something that I don't have, all I do is empower what I don't have. If I pray for health, I am just empowering the fact that right now I don't have it. If I pray for love, I'm simply empowering the belief that I don't already have it. If I pray for peace, I am only empowering the fact that peace is not already here. So David said, I did not come here to pray for rain. Well, then Gregg Braden says, what the heck did you come here for? I'm confused. What did you do? He said, I prayed rain. What does that mean? He said, I stood in the middle of that circle and I felt the mud between my toes. I felt the water pouring down on my skin. I felt myself walking through shoulder height corn that was so vibrant and alive because it had gotten so much rain this season. I felt the rain. That's praying rain. So I want us from now on to take that word for. Whenever we want to do prayer, ask someone to pray for us, that we take, I want prayer for XYZ. Let's going to take that little word out. We're simply going to pray XYZ. And no longer empower what isn't, but instead move into the feeling, the experience of what is. Remember, the abbot said, the scriptures said, feeling is prayer. Feeling is prayer. Braden writes, feeling is the language that the mind of God recognizes. Feeling is the language that David used to invite rain to the desert. Because it happens in a way that is so straightforward and so literal, it's easy to see why we may have believed that this principle would be more complicated than it really is. It's just as easy to see how we could have missed it altogether. The good news is in religious science, we haven't missed it. We've got it. At least we've got it here. But having it here and having it here in practice are two different things, right? We do know that, right? There was a second piece that David added to his prayer, once his prayer of rain, once he finished feeling that experience of the rain, feeling the mud, feeling himself walking through the cornfields, he then stood in deep appreciation and gratitude for the ability to be a co-creator of bringing that particular reality into tangible form. Out of all the infinite possibilities of reality, he stood in gratitude for being a part of bringing that reality into tangible form. Oh, that takes our gratitude step an even layer deeper. When I say gratitude step, I mean in our 5-step spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer, which is all about being in the consciousness that it's already done. But I want us to take this deeper to it's not just in our head that we think it's already done. I want us to move it into a feeling in our body that it is already done. So Braden gives an analogy for this and how it works in a different book, actually in my favorite Gregg Braden book, and it is The Isaiah Effect. I read that. That was the first book of his I ever read, so I think that's why it has a special spot in my heart. But in the book of The Isaiah Effect, he talks about the soup of creation, which is just another word for what we would call the world of infinite possibilities, which is the world of source, the world of spirit. In God, anything can be created. Anything and everything is available in the invisible. And to bring it into the visible, there needs to be a catalyst. Now, sometimes that catalyst is the divine idea that says, here, let me bring this species into existence. But the catalyst can also be us, through our thoughts and our feelings and our beliefs and our believing, right? Will be a catalyst for bringing some particular tangible experience that is in the unformed ethers into actual, tangible human experience. So Braden gives the analogy of making rock candy. I've never made rock candy myself, but I've certainly seen it. And he says how to make rock candy is that you take a jar of water and you just keep pouring sugar in it and you stir it up, right? You stir it up. And pretty soon you don't see that sugar anymore because it's completely diluted or dissolved, rather, into the water. You know it's there. So that water, sugar water, is kind of like the soup of creation. Something can be made out of that, but there needs to be a catalyst before anything will happen. The catalyst in this analogy is a string, right? You put a string in this water, and the water, the sugar molecules attached to this string. When the water dissolves or evaporates, you now have a string of what is called rock candy or hardened sugar. The string is the catalyst in that soup of creation to create rock candy. Our feelings are like the catalyst in the soup of infinite possibilities to bring into form that which we desire to experience. When we empower the desire versus the what we don't have. Does that make sense? Do we have that? All right. So here's the deal. I completely get and understand that when we're in our human experience, and particularly if we're into a place in our life where something is happening that's scary. Has anybody ever had a place in your life where something happened that was scary? Yep. You had a diagnosis, you had a divorce, you had whatever it might be. It was scary. It can be challenging to go from scary place to feeling like whatever the opposite of that is already done, right? If you've just gotten a diagnosis that scares you, it can be challenging humanly to move to a place of feeling that you're absolutely whole and perfect and your body is vibrant and healthy and you're energetic and you're completely whole and perfect and there's nothing wrong with you. There's no disease whatsoever. It can be challenging to move from A to that sometimes seems like C or Z. There's too much in between. So if that's the case, if you can't get there, then do anything to move you to a place of feeling better. Anything you can do to move you a little bit to feeling better. So if you're in a place of fear and scared and upset and hand-wringing and don't know what to do and concerned, what is something that you can do to take you a step to feeling better? Maybe it's putting on a silly movie that you just love. Maybe it's listening to some sacred music that moves you. Maybe it's putting on Ricky Byers' The Land of I Am CD and listening to that. Or if you can sing it, actually sing it. And dance around to that. That song actually needs to be danced to, right? Next time you girls do this, I have a request. And I want to be a part of it. I want some dancers in the background. All right? I want some dancers in the background. Because that song, and Rick is like, I'll be one. Right? I'm on it. That song needs movement. So movement is a beautiful way to move our feelings to a different. We're talking about vibration, really, a higher step up in vibration. And then you're there, and then you can take it another step, and then you can take it another step, and pretty soon you can be in that place of absolutely feeling and knowing that you are that which you desire, and that is how you pray that thing. That is how you pray that thing. Whatever that thing is, you pray it into being. Again, Braden says, through this quality of feeling, the ancients believed that we're given direct access to the power of creation. And that's really powerful. Through this quality of feeling, the ancients believed that we're given direct access to the power of creation. Through our feelings, we create. I want to give you another story, not from the book. The story of during World War II, a U.S. Marine was separated from his unit on a Pacific island. And in the fight that was going on, with the smoke and in all the chaos, he got separated from them and was a little freaked out because he was being surrounded by those who were there to kill him. And so he's in the jungle and sees this ridge, so he goes up on the ridge and realizes that there's a series of caves in the ridge. And so he goes in the one farthest away from where the opposing army is, and he goes in the cave. So he's in there, and for a few moments thinks, well, I'm safe for now, but they're going to get up on this ridge pretty soon, and then they're going to look into every cave, and they'll eventually get to my cave, and as soon as they do, I'm a goner. So he does what many of us do when we're in a challenge like this. He turned to prayer. And so he closed his eyes and he just started praying. And something came over him in this prayer. A feeling came over him of being absolutely safe and secure. Almost a blanket of security. It felt like there was this blanket of security around him. And he finished this prayer with great gratitude that this was so. And he just knew. He knew that he was safe. So when he came out of the prayer, he hears the soldiers several caves away, but he hears them. And so he knows they're now up on the ridge. And panic set. He just had this amazing moment, this sacred moment of praying safety, and now he's freaked out and he's scared. Anybody ever done that? You know, you've done your prayer work, you feel great, you've seen yourself there, you felt yourself there, and then boom, back you go. Back you go into the fear and the doubt. Yes, so we're there. What do you do? What do you do? In first service, little Amy Jones, bless her heart, she just shouted out, I know what to do. You change your bracelet. Right? You guys, many of you know what I'm talking about, right? We've been wearing reminder bracelets, and I did my reminder bracelet. I forgot to put on this morning, but a reminder bracelet to stay centered, stay present. And when we get off center, out of present, and into fear, we change it, and we have a new attitude. So Amy says, you change your bracelet. Well, that isn't exactly the answer I was looking for, but I liked it a lot. The answer I was looking for is you pray again. That's all. You just pray again. And so that's what he did. He hears the opposing soldiers coming a ways away yet, but he knows they're on their way to him, and so he simply prays again. And he moves again into that space of feeling like he's safe, really feeling like he's protected, like he's okay. He sees his life beyond this moment and knows it's a rich and full and long life. And just when he opens his eyes after this prayer, he notices for the first time that there's been a little spider busy at work on the entrance to the cave, weaving a web. Spider has been weaving a web. And he thinks to himself, oh, God, you have got a great sense of humor. I need a brick wall. And you're sending me a spider web. Not quite going to cut it, God. You know, we have that conversation too sometimes, don't we? Right? But this spider continues on its little journey of making this web, and he gets all done. Spider scurries away. By the time the soldiers get to his cave. So the young man in the cave hears the soldiers come by. They hear him. He hears them look into the cave right next to him. And then they come to his cave and they look at it. And he's kind of holding his breath. And they walk on by. They walk on by. And he realizes that because of that spider web, they think no one has entered that cave for a very long time. And he has this realization that in God, a spider web is way more powerful than a brick wall. In God, a spider web is way more powerful than a brick wall. So I want us to weave a little spider web for ourselves here today by not praying for something, but praying something. I know that every one of us sitting in this room, well, most of us sitting in this room, have something that might be up for us right now. There is a challenge that we're facing, and maybe it's a health challenge, maybe it's a financial challenge, maybe it's a love challenge, a relationship challenge, or we want a relationship, or whatever it might be. Maybe it's a great opportunity that sits in front of us, and we're not sure what decision to discover about it or which direction to take, or we simply want this great opportunity to unfold with ease and grace. Whatever it might be, would you be willing to pray it this morning in this way? Yes? Good. So, thank you. So let's close our eyes. And what we're going to do is our beautiful, powerful science of mind treatment, we call it, a spiritual mind treatment. But the third step, I'm going to let you do it on your own with a little direction. So a treatment is 5 steps. They're called recognition, unification, realization, thanksgiving, and release. The first step, recognition. Recognizing that there is one power, one presence, one life, one energy, one essence in, as, and through all things. All things here today, tangible, that can be felt, seen, touched, tasted. Things that are no longer here but were here at one point. Things that are yet to be brought into physical expression. Things in this world and in other worlds. God is not only the source of all those things, but the essence of all those things. Everything created is God in expression. Everything created is God in manifestation. And because it's everything, that must mean that you and I are part of it. Step 2, unification. I am one with the Creator. I am one of the Creator. I am a creation of creation. And the fact that is true of me is true of each and every one of us as well. Everyone, one of God. Everyone, an expression of the divine. Everyone, a unique emanation of the one life. Knowing this, then, I move into step 3, realization, where I speak my word. I speak it with conviction and with power, and with knowing that as I do, this perfect law of God that responds to our feelings is being activated right now as we pray in this particular way, this first secret of the lost mode of prayer, as we pray in that way right now. And how that's going to be is I'm going to be quiet. And you are going to take whatever it is that came up for you this morning. And if there's nothing up for you this morning, well, just bask in the glory of the beauty of life itself. And send your energy of love into this room. But what we're going to do is see, not see in our mind's eye, feel in our heart, feel in our body this desire already being done. So if it's a health challenge that you are facing this morning, see yourself vibrant and healthy. Feel what it feels like as your body is healthy and alive and electric and energetic, and you do what you want to do when you want to do it and the way you want to do it. If it's a love that you're wanting to bring into your life, see yourself in that relationship, joy-filled, having mutual experiences. See yourself just like David saw and felt the mud under his feet and between his toes. Feel that. And I'm going to be quiet for a moment so you can do that. Pray. Feel it. Be it. Feeling is the prayer. And then we can feel nothing but gratitude. Step 4. Nothing but gratitude. To have been a part of creating out of the infinite possibilities that could be created, out of creating this particular scenario that supports and empowers you on your ever-unfolding journey. How grateful we are for that. And in this place of gratitude, we then do the last step, the only thing that is left to do, which is to let go and release. Turn this all over to God's perfect law that says only and always yes, and has said that right now. So with faith and with trust, we release and we let go. And we anchor it by saying together, and so it is.